Hello and welcome to another episode of Angel Insights, the show that goes deep into the world of early stage investing. I'm your host, Tom Britton, co-founder of SyndicateRoom. And on today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Pam Garside to the show. Pam is the first female chair of Cambridge Angels and one of the UK's most experienced health tech investors. What I find so fascinating about Pam's journey is that she didn't follow the typical path into angel investing. She spent 30 years in healthcare, from NHS management to international consulting, before being hunted to join the exclusive Cambridge Angels network. She's now invested in over 30 companies, 26 of them health tech companies, including AccuRx, and she chairs one of the most prestigious investor groups in the country. On today's episode, we cover her transition from NHS management to angel investing, what makes Cambridge Angels so special, her approach to health tech due diligence, and why she thinks there should be more women in angel investing. But that's enough from me. Let's welcome Pam to the show. Pam, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great. It's a pleasure. A pleasure, Tom.
You and I have known each other for a little while now. It's taken us a little while to get you on the show, but you're here today and we're going to be talking a bit about how you do your thing with angel investing. If I start, I love that you've got this quite unique journey of getting into angel investing. You're a long-time healthcare worker, in the sense of you've been running NHS organizations, you've worked for healthcare companies in the UK, and now you've been primarily backing health tech related businesses. If we start, what drew you into healthcare and health tech?
I did a zoology degree and I applied for a bunch of graduate training programs, as you do. This was many, many years ago. And the one in NHS management, it's now called the General Management Training Scheme, is tough to get onto. And I got on it and it's great. So a lot of my peers across the years now are a senior in the NHS. It's non-clinical, it's managerial. But I am afraid only stayed in the NHS a short time because I got a scholarship to graduate school in America, where I did the degree and then stayed for 10 years and did lots of international work. And I've always taught, which is relevant, in University of Minnesota, then Imperial, and now Cambridge. I'm a fellow in the business school. I suppose I've always mentored young people, which I still do. So I started to come across startups. And the very first investment I made was in an Australian company that gave me equity instead of fees. And I thought, oh, well, that's quite creative. And it did very well. And the second company was in America. So I got into it through a sort of variety of routes. But also, I guess, in my case, I was on the crest of a wave of investment in digital health and software and tech-enabled services investment from about sort of 17, 18 years ago till now. It's been quite a booming sector.
You mentioned your first investment being in an Australian business and also having some in the US. I think one of the things you've become known for is your involvement with the Cambridge Angels. You're first female chair of the Cambridge Angels, which is fantastic. So congrats on that. How did you initially encounter this group?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I'd been a fellow at the Judge for a long time. I'm on the investment committee for Cambridge Enterprise, the spin-out company for the university. And Simon Thorpe, who was the chair of Cambridge Angels before me, it was before he was chair, the board decided they needed women because there were 58 men and no women, believe it or not. And they approached me, and I'd heard of Cambridge Angels, but I said, well, I don't fit, because about 3/4 of our members in Cambridge Angels are exited entrepreneurs, serious, not capital, recycled, and they're investing with this huge knowledge of having done the journey. And I am not one of those. I've done quite a lot of angel investing. So I said, well, I'm a bit of an imposter here. But they came and found me, which is, I think, what you have to do quite often to get diversity. You have to actively find people. So yeah, it was that way.
Has the breakdown of Cambridge Angels changed since your involvement? Obviously, they sought you because you brought this diverse perspective, but have they continued to decline?
We've got many more women. We'd like more, and it's still a minority. The problem is that we're old. We were founded 2001. And the members then, it was the dot-com era. There was a lot of successful exits and they got together. And those members are still members. They're fantastic. But we are a bit old and white and male, but we do make an effort.
What do you think is the benefit, though, of keeping it so exclusive?
I think it's good. I mean, Onion,
Oxford
Oxford, the one has
Investment Network.
one has members, and it's fine if it works for them. There's various angel groups and many more now that operate on WhatsApp, which is again fine. I think it works because you get one of the things that I really like about it is getting to know the members, and I've learned a huge amount. And there's obviously in any group percentage, it's over half with us who are active, and there's a collegiality about it. There's definitely a collegiality about it, and you rely on each other. It's a company limited by guarantee. We all invest as individuals. We don't have a nominee structure or a sidecar fund or anything. So I think it's important that we know each other reasonably well. We know who knows about biotech, who knows about quantum, who knows about AI. So I think there's a real benefit. People say we're elite, and I just sort of, we have to suck it up, really. I think it's good.
Talking about the due diligence, because you said, you all invest as individuals. What would you say is the key difference in how Cambridge Angels approach due diligence to the other networks?
Well, I've always done very early stage pre-seed, trying to spot the companies as they form. And we are pre-seed and seed. Due diligence, there's not a lot of data to go on in many of these companies because they're so early. I mean, you know about this at SyndicateRoom. I mean, if it were a big seed or a Series A, there would be data, there'd be history, very little. So you're taking a punt on the teams, of course, and the appetite for growth and the initial thoughts on product market fit. But our screening process, which I can go into if you like, is pretty good. We get 1,425, or we had 1,425 companies applying with DEX last year in 2024. Now, clearly, as I was saying the other night at our reception, quite a proportion of bonkers. Volker's quotient is going up because of BD people using AI to reach out. And some of the emails are hilarious. They pretend that they're very bespoke to you and they get it wrong. However, we screen down. So the screening's important in terms of deep. But then when they get to pitch to us, we have informals online and we have formal dinner pitches, which are the things everybody remembers about Cambridge Angels because they tend to be in a Cambridge college and they're a bit Cambridgey. So if we know one of our members is there who knows a lot about something, like, I don't know, William Tunstall-Pedo would know all about the AI side of it. John West was a fairly new member about nuclear issues. Biotech, we have a couple of members. So we're sort of relying on some individuals who are very experienced in that particular area. And then we have a discussion between us, and then basically it's a put up your hand if you're interested, and then somebody in our membership will take the lead, often the person who's brought the company to the group. It doesn't always have a sponsor, but it generally does at a dinner, and that person will follow up and do further DD. And I'm often asked about healthcare companies. I happen to be married to a surgeon who helps us with medical stuff, and we all know people who'll go, and we'll say, take a look at this. So it's that informal. It's not so much, here's a data room and dig into it. It's some informal stuff. And then we'll talk to our corporate partners because we have 6 corporate partners, VCs, and angel co-fund is in there. So between us, we're doing a sort of triangulation, or more than a triangulation, of views on these deals.
Given your experience and given the portfolio you've already amassed with, I think it's 26 of your 34 investments are in health tech. It would make sense that you take the lead on many of these health tech opportunities. So I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about your specific due diligence process when you're looking at a health tech opportunity. Particularly, as you noted, you go in so early. There's not a lot of data in that stage. So can we elaborate on what it is you're looking for, how you're evaluating the team, and some of the green flags and some of the red flags that you spotted in your time?
Yeah. There are certain areas that have been very hot the last few years: femtech, fertility, mental health apps. And in health, you get value-driven people, which is good. You also get investors and angels who don't know about health, but think, oh, this is valuable. And health is a very particular area. You're not asking this, but I tend to know quite a lot about how these products and services will land in the NHS and in the American health system. And both of those systems are very complex. And a red flag is a slide which goes, and we're going to sell to the NHS and then we're going to America, and I think, cool, where do I start? So on that particular issue, I look for some insight into how difficult it is.
And what type of insight, though?
Well, they'll have looked into the NHS and how the procurement works, and they'll use some of the words, even if they're not experienced at it, they'll recognize that it's difficult, and they'll convey some knowledge about how the NHS is structured and how the procurement works. For instance, people still naively think there's one decision for one national system, and it's the reverse. You have to go to each hospital in some cases because of the procurement system. So just the insight that it's difficult, and they may have talked to some people, and they may have an advisor on their proto board. And in America, again, it's there's not only distribution, it's very expensive to hire people. You have to have regulatory compliance, reimbursement advice on the reimbursement codes, and then a knowledge of, again, how the system works. So I think it is just recognition of the insight rather than just this global, well, we're really good and the health system will buy us automatically. And I happen to know what to look for in those because there's some pretty low quality companies in that area. I don't tend to do direct-to-consumer investment at all. I'll do something that's more protected and selling into the health system. When I mentioned about value-driven, often founders will have a relative or they have experienced mental health issues themselves and they're passionate, which is great. But again, there's a lot of Me Too's in mental health apps, and people think, well, it's so good and it's helped me so much, it's clearly going to work. And you have to sort of temper that very positive motivation with some sort of reality about the market.
What are some of the questions that you use to tease out if they have the understanding of the procurement process from the NHS or in the US? How do you challenge them on their understanding of that?
I ask them who they've spoken to. I do look about who they've got on their team, because they'll usually have a team at that point. I also look if they've got women on their teams, because healthcare, over half of doctors are women in this country and in most countries now. And it's a female sector. It's female led. The decisions are made by female. So I look at they have a woman on their team. I sort of delve into what research they've done with other people, who's on their team. I obviously look at the product or service and think, is that any good? I look at their valuations, which are often really quite high.
Do you think the valuations in health tech are higher than other sectors, excluding AI, of course?
They are quite high. I know at the very early stage, they are taking a punt on, and they give an example. They give an example of a company, and it's usually, we're going to be like Accurix, which is a successful company that I happened to invest in at the beginning, and we're going to use a freemium model. And you go, yeah, but when is that person going to pay? And then we're going to get into the GP market. Now that statement alone, we're going to get into the GP primary care market. I can interrogate them for 10 minutes on that to find out if they know what they're talking about. So again, it's more getting into the system. The other thing I do is I send it to a bunch of mates and say, do you think this is bonkers? Do you think this is worth looking at? Startups don't quite realize that we talk to each other. I'm on the board of one of Albion's VCTs who do quite a lot of health tech. So I'll ask friends in VCs, they usually much younger than me, very enthusiastic, and fellow angels, what they think. So again, you're triangulating.
Let's talk about one of the companies that did get funded in your portfolio, and you brought them up earlier, Accurix, because they've become kind of this model that others want to emulate. Talk me through the pitch that they initially came on.
This is a great story, but it's not one to follow. The founder, Jacob Haddad he's called, was 25 and he gate crashed a Cambridge Health Network meeting. co-chair of the Cambridge Health Network, brings together public and private. Sally Davies was speaking, now Master of Trinity. She was then Chief Medical Officer. And he came in and we invite junior doctors. And I said, oh, you junior doctor? He said, now I've got a startup. I'm a gate crasher. And his startup the original idea was software to discourage GPs from prescribing antibiotics. It wasn't exactly a great idea. I just thought this guy's really good. And he was being an entrepreneur first. I liked his co-founder. It was SCIS. So I put money in and 3 people, I won't name them because their friends said, are you mad? And it's done incredibly well. And they did a freemium model, and their trick, it's not a trick, they have a product that GPs say to me, and the senior GP head of primary care in the NHS said to me, never take Accurix away. It's so good, and they're so good at the customer service. And it was freemium, and then he started charging for it. So that was a punt on a founder.
Well, what about one that maybe wasn't so much a punt on just the founder, maybe something more traditional, maybe a Wellframe or Oviva?
Yeah.
Kind of how you approach those when they were pitching you for investment.
Yeah, well, Oviva is another one that's doing well. And I was helping them as an advisor, and I invested partly because it was in Switzerland, Germany, France, and the UK. So you hedge your bets if it's not going to work in the UK. And I continued to invest, and it's now doing very well because it's GLP-1 adjacent, meaning people who are on Ozempic and Mounjaro need digital dietetic advice. But the particular reason there is what I mentioned, that it was across several countries. And I thought, well, they're bound to do well in one market. And I like the founder again, the founders.
So founders, obviously, they're important to this, not just the decks and what they say. What are some of the common traits in those founders that you're looking for?
Well, a friend of mine said they sleep under the desk. They're going to work really, really hard. They're very driven. I think they're creative as well. I can't stress enough, and you know this, how hard these people work. And also that they listen to advice. I'm on a few advisory boards, but the advice I've given to these companies is a phone call or a WhatsApp, just a sort of nudge, because I get, I'm old, I've been around a long time, I know people in health systems, and I'll do a sort of WhatsApp response. Like I got one time, I won't say, it was like, we're thinking of asking this person to be on the board. And I said, do not on any account ask that person to be on your board. It's that sort of knowledge of the system and the people and the marketplace to a certain extent. So yes, I help them all. If I can, I help them all.
We've talked about a few that have been going well, of course, but it's not always roses and sunshine in angel investing. I know we won't name drop, but I know that there was a recent exit from your portfolio that didn't go so well.
Can mention it actually, because it's used as an example of how not to treat a tech company. Chiron Medical, a year ago, I'd have said it was in my top 3 companies, and it was AI into mammograms. And in mammography, you need 2 radiologists to read the scan for, sort of validity. And they became the second radiologist through AI. They were early to the market, amazing science. They did very well in Scotland, and England wouldn't give them a trial. I'm summarizing, and there may be many reasons. Oh, and also in the heady days of 21, 22, they just missed a funding round. Again, not their fault, it was the market. So everything conspired, and it was sold for a song, really. So that hurt. That hurt a lot, because also it was a great technology for women. Anyway, so yeah, and then I've had several. It's funny that there's a few of them in Cambridge Angels. We've got zombie companies that sort of struggle along the bottom, and you end up thinking, just go broke.
Let me get the write-off, please.
Get the write-off. But also at the moment, as you well know, there's quite a lot of follow-on rounds that not zombie companies, but companies that really have something of value and need another funding round. And we angels are doing a lot more follow-ons than we used to.
Talking of those, though, the ones that have gone zombie in this Chiron Medical, What are the lessons that you're taking away from that so that you can try and adjust either how you invest or support a business later on so that it doesn't happen to more?
What I've learned looking back, if I were to look at those and would I invest again, in most of the cases, I think I would, because they had all sorts of things lined up. Now, in one of them, the team was not what I thought it was. I think that as they, you see them and you see the founding team at the beginning and you think they're going to do it. And then you realize the founders are maybe not getting on. They're not good at hiring people. They're not good at getting rid of people who are not very good. In America, people get rid of non-performing team members a lot faster than here. And so it plays out, and it's often a team issue, interestingly. And when you've invested, another company, I won't mention, it turns out that underneath the CEO and the CTO, things were not going well. And I think a weak link is sales and the chief commercial officer or the chief revenue officer. I think that they're in short supply, the good ones, and often people make mistakes there. But at the very beginning, you don't know this. And that's why it's a bit of a punt. So there's a couple of them I should have known from the founder, actually. Because I had doubt. Shouldn't have done it. You only know when you're sort of 2 or 3 years in sometimes.
You've got 26 in health tech. You've got 8 that are not. What was it about those 8 that drew you out of your specialty?
Angels, because I looked at some of them with my colleagues, and I thought, yeah, that looks a good deal. It's mostly Cambridge Angels, yeah. Now, I, again, do small tickets, and some of my angel colleagues were doing it, bigger ones. But yeah, it's that really, because you get to see a lot more. In my other work life, of course, I just see health stuff and hang around with health people. But Cambridge Angels takes me into all these other areas, so it's that.
How have those performed? Where's the your core?
Yeah, it's about the same range, actually. Some I think, oh my gosh, I should have done that. And others, yeah, they're doing okay. It's about the same. It's sort of a normal distribution.
Coming back to something that you kind of mentioned earlier, you talked about Cambridge Angels and all the experience, and you talked about activity. How active do you tend to be in your portfolio companies? Are you often rolling up your sleeves? Are you hands off, or is it a bit of a mix?
Again, it goes through a cycle. Accurates is so established. I tend to help with connections, but they don't really need them anymore. There's one at the moment that is in a much earlier stage. And I suppose the thing I'm most valuable for is connections. There's 2 I'm helping at the moment. The chief exec of a hospital. If they email, they'll either never get a reply or it'll be handed off to somebody 5 levels down. And I can email the chief exec and they're likely to look at it. So I can get them through a door that would take them 6 months or a year to get through. And that's what they tend to use me for. Also, I absorb anxiety. They're very worried about this or that and the other, and I'll just listen to them and say sensible things about strategy or hiring people, actually. Post-raise, they tend to hire too many people, in my view. And a VC might be involved saying, hire. And I'm always thinking, well, might not to throw all that money out yet at hiring. So I suppose I had a bit on the growth strategy, but particularly valuable are the connections.
I think that those connections are incredibly important. Clearly, for those companies that are trying to get into the NHS and other hierarchical structures where you've got those contacts, it can be very useful. Sticking with the NHS, what do you think the role is of startups in trying to either reduce costs, wait times, or make improvements to the NHS?
It's fantastic. For instance, yesterday in the plan, what we've all thought for years is outpatients. It's outdated. It was designed in 1908 in a lot of hospitals, and it's still the same. And the tech and software to support outpatients being done out of the hospital is there. It's just we need smart procurement of it by elements of the NHS. So I'm kind of optimistic, but it's a tough ride.
What do you think needs to change the most? Obviously, you've mentioned the procurement, but what else needs to change within the NHS to allow startups to do more in improving the NHS? Loaded question.
Yeah, I don't know how many GPs are listening, but the new primary care contract is going to be important. And the fact that GPs tend to control data privacy, quite rightly, they want their patients' data protected, but we could do a lot more on a single patient record and access to that patient record with permission from patients across the board, and access to those data by even the evil private sector, pharma companies, research, fantastic use of, we have the most valuable data set you could say in the world because it's longitudinal and everybody's in it. So I think the data side and the single patient record will happen with the right motivation. Now, when you get to the bureaucracy inside the NHS for procuring this stuff, for instance, ambient AI in recording a doctor or a nurse with a patient, there are many, many, many companies offering that. And in America, it's the same. Health organizations don't know which to choose. So they should have a way of validating or giving a good housekeeping seal of approval to a few and make sure the procurement is there for them to happen. And that's not necessarily happening at the moment, I happen to know. It could get better. It could improve. And I'm just hopeful it will. Because, people, I'll say your age or my kids' age, they're not going to put up with this non-digital service. I think it'll change.
What's got you most excited right now then for the market?
If they can integrate offerings to patients in the NHS app and get over the open access for software to the app, I think that is very exciting if you can do it. So the big electronic patient records companies that have EPRs in the hospital, they tend to say, oh, we can do that. We can do our ambient AI. We can add things to our system. And I think, again, we need more interoperability for those systems taking on some of these new and exciting products. I think things that shift care out of the hospital and into the home, a lot of development happened in COVID with telemedicine, etc. I think that's exciting. I think actually some of the fertility tech is exciting because there haven't been that many developments in the last 20 years, but I think some of the fertility tech is good because our fertility generally is going down. So yeah, a few things.
So it's been a pleasure having you on, but we always end shows with a rapid fire section where I'll ask you a question and I want the first thing that comes to your mind, not too much thinking about it. So first question on that side, what's the best advice you would give to a healthcare professional who wants to consider angel investing?
I'd say stick to health to start with because that's what you understand, and go with your gut on founders and find some friends or mates that are thinking the same and triangulate between them and get some other views and just do it once to see what it's like.
So you've been angel investing for a long time now. What's the one thing that has surprised you most about angel investing?
I think probably what surprised me that I've carried on doing it this long because it's this much fun.
What is the most overhyped area in digital health right now?
Well, it's very bad to say mental health apps, but I think there are possibly too many Me Too mental health apps and Me Too men's health apps as well. I don't know whether they're overhyped, but yeah, there's a lot of Me Too's in there. You have to dig through them.
You're the 6th chair of Cambridge Angels, the first female chair of Cambridge Angels. If you could do one thing different about your term as chair, what would it be?
My goals when I set up were keep the show on the road, don't screw it up because it was just post-COVID in a difficult market. Improve diversity and get our name out there more. And I think we're doing okay on those. What would I do differently? I would probably have devised a new screening process earlier on. We have a great screening process now. That's a lot, actually. I don't think I do many things.
A sign of a job well done.
Maybe.
Last question, Pam. You've had this incredible career spanning, managing healthcare organizations and backing companies trying to transform them. As you've mentioned before, most people are kind of like, shouldn't you stop angel investing now? What's keeping you motivated? The one thing, if you had to summarize it, that keeps you motivated to keep.
A number of good ideas coming through. I mean, I know we all talk about the market being difficult, in pre-Series A, but there is no shortage of fantastic ideas coming from young people in health tech in particular. So, and this will help the world, and some of them will do really well. So it's that, really.
Well, thank you very much. Your insights have been fantastic. For those that maybe want to continue following you or reading about your journey as an angel and beyond, what should they do? Where should they go?
Well, I just do LinkedIn, really. I'm not big on social, so LinkedIn.
Where we will put your profile in the show notes if you don't mind, so that those who have enjoyed this can follow you. Thank you so much for joining us. That really is a pleasure. And we will, of course, speak again soon.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Well, that concludes this episode of Angel Insights, and I do hope you've enjoyed hearing from Pam as much as I have. If you did, please do like and subscribe. We'd always appreciate that, and tune into the next episode. If you want to find out more about what we're doing at SyndicateRoom, please head on over to www.syndicateroom.com, and we'll hopefully see you next time. Until then, have a great day. Bye.